Hey, what's going on, everybody? So, I've been wanting to do this for a while, and I've finally gotten the time and willpower to just crank this out. So, what this is going to be, it's going to be a guide for a hybrid melee Mirage build that I've been using for several seasons, and it's probably the funnest Mesmer spec I've ever played, but it's also very effective as well, especially if you know how to use it. So we'll start with just the weapon sigils and rune and amulet first. So this is an axe torch sword pistol build. You'll have double energy on both weapon sets. The reason for this is since you are Mirage, you want to be able to dodge as much as possible because that's where a lot of your damage and sustain comes from. If you cannot dodge, you don't have that much damage or sustain. So that's why you want energy sigils on both weapon sets. On your axe and torch, on your axe you want Sigil of Doom. Your next attack after you swap to this weapon while in combat inflicts poison for 5 seconds. Poison is a great cover condition, and since while you might not be completely condition based, conditions are a sizable amount of your damage, and in order for your conditions to do their job, you want to make sure they don't get cleansed as easy. So that's what poison does. Poison also, even if they don't cleanse, if they heal, also reduces the effectiveness of their heal. So that's also a very nice condition to have. And then on your sword, you want the Sigil of Absorption. You steal a boon when you're interrupting an enemy. Now, this is extremely effective for boon stripping since you will be interrupting a lot, especially with your sword. So every 3 seconds, if you manage to get an interrupt, you steal a boon for yourself. So this is great if you want to get resistance off of somebody. Not as effective for stripping stability, unfortunately. But if you're going up against boon stacking classes, it is nice to be able to take those boons for yourself. And then for your rune and amulet, for the amulet, I use Rune of the Crate. And the reason behind this is that unlike the typical condition build for Mirage, most of your damage is not going to be coming from Confusion or even Torment. Well, you'll be getting a good amount of damage from Torment, but the real condition that you're going to be stacking hard is actually Bleeds. And the Crate runes also boost your condition damage, but the big thing is that it makes your Bleeds last much longer. So that's kind of the reason why I go with crate runes. The number 6 for this crate rune is also very nice as well. It turns your jaunt into another. It adds more to your jaunts. So what I mean by that is it already inflicts 3 stacks confusion as is, but even beyond that, if you use it, you'll get bleeding, torment, and poison on nearby foes for 8 seconds. So again, more conditions, something you always want possible. And then for your rune, I use Wizard Amulet. I feel it's the perfect balance between power and condition damage, but also giving you vitality, to give you a little bit sustain. Now, if you want more sustain, you can go Sage Amulet. You are sacrificing that precision, so you won't be doing as much damage. However, you'll be staying alive longer. I personally don't see Sage Amulet as even really necessary for this, since you already have so much built-in survivability as is. I feel that it's much better for you to go more damage. And when you see the trait lines, you'll see what I mean, to where I think it's more beneficial to go more damage rather than more sustain. Alright, so for your trait lines, let's swap these. We're going Dueling, Inspiration, Mirage. So we'll start with Dueling first. So Duelist Discipline. Pistol attacks from viewing your illusions have a chance to cause bleeding. Interrupting a foe recharges pistol skills. This gives you so much damage on your pistol, and it also capitalizes on the fact why I say that bleeding is going to be the main damaging condition that you stack on people. So a duelist volley alone can stack an insane amount of bleeds on people. So I'll give a demonstration with this golem right here. So this is just one duelist, right? Yeah, that's 15 stacks of bleeding already. And I know the thought might be like, okay, yeah, but it's against a golem, it's just standing there. But you have many tools to ensure that your duelist will land its full burst. So don't be surprised if someone does get nailed with the entire duelist volley and gets 15 stacks of bleeding on them. And even beyond that, interrupting a foe recharges pistol skills. This synergizes extremely well with your magic bullet and also your Mirage thrust, which dazes, but you can use it to interrupt people as well. If you get some good interrupt stacks on people, your pistol skills can recharge pretty much fully, and then you can keep pumping out duelists and magic bullets, and it just keeps going over and over again. So do not think that that your pistol can't do work. It can do plenty of work, especially if you do whatever possible to secure your duelist burst. And then we have blinding dissipation, so blind foes around you whenever you use a shatter skill. Again, this is both offensive and defensive. It's offensive because it makes all your shatters inflict confusion if you're in melee range, which you're going to be in melee range since this is a melee build. And it also makes it to where if you do interrupt, you get an extra stack of confusion on top of it. Well, extra 2 stacks actually. So you can also use your blind dissipation or to secure stomps. If you can't Mirage cloak stomp, you can just pop a shatter, blind everyone around you, makes it to where you can secure the stomp. This also helps you survive in melee as well, since you'll be blinding whoever you're fighting, and you can make critical skills miss. If you feel like you're going to get hit with a pretty bad burst skill and you don't have any dodges available, you can simply pop a shatter. It can be any one of the shatters really, though I think Mind Rack would probably be the most effective one to use considering its low cooldown, and then you can cause that skill to miss. And then we have Ineptitude. Interrupting a foe inflicts blind, and blinding a foe inflicts confusion. So again, this synergizes with your blind dissipation. So instead of the normal 2 stacks confusion, you'll get 4 stacks confusion if you do manage to interrupt someone, since you're getting the well, actually, I kind of flopped it around, but you get what I mean. So basically, interrupts will cause 4 stacks confusion and blind. So, of course, more conditions, exactly what you want. This also has a defensive purpose. Since you interrupt, you're blinding them, so you can interrupt them and make them miss a critical skill afterwards. All right, and then we have Inspiration. So we have Medic's feedback. Cast feedback while reviving an ally. Your revival speed is increased, and feedback creates a dome around you that reflects projectiles. I was skeptical about this at first, but after testing it through a lot of matches, this skill alone can turn the tide of an entire fight. And what I mean by that is that while you're reviving, you can dodge as a Mirage and still keep reviving. So what that means is that it's going to be that much harder for the enemies to cleave or stop your res. And not only that, since you are taking Medic's feedback, your revive speed is increased by 10%, and you create a dome around you that reflects projectiles. So you basically negate 100% worth of range cleave. So you don't even have to worry about range cleave if you're reviving, because the feedback bubble will handle it. This trait used to be even stronger when Temporal Enchanter was still in the game, which made it to where glamour skills granted resistance. So when you use the Medic feedback, when that feedback bubble popped up, you and everyone else around got resistance, which means you also negated like 100% worth of Condi cleave for about 2 or 3 seconds, and that alone could be enough for you to get somebody on their feet. So if somebody was poisoned, that poison doesn't matter since they had resistance. Of course, that trait's now no longer in the game, but this does not negate how useful this trait is. It's a very, very useful trait, and it gives you a lot more. I feel gives you more team fight potential because you are now a potent reser, so you can pick people, put people back on their feet, and I think that's kind of one area where Mesmer in general kind of suffers is team fight contributions. But I've had really good success with this trait, and that's why I recommend it. Now, if you want a more selfish option, but it gives you more sustain, you can go Restorative Mantras, which means it heals the allies around you when you finish preparing a mantra. You can use this to heal your teammates, but especially if you're playing solo queue, I wouldn't really count on your teammates being able to coordinate that with you unless you are doing a duo queue or you actually do manage to communicate with your team and they can kind of read what you're doing. But this does give you more sustain on your own. I feel this is very useful if you want to push sides more and force 1vx fights. You can go Restorative Mantras. Now, if you go Restorative Mantras, you of course won't be using False Oasis. You would use the Mantra of Recovery instead. But in this version of the build I'm showing you, I'm going to be using Medic's Feedback and False Oasis. But if you do want to use the Healing Mantra and you want to use this trait instead, then you are perfectly free to do that. And then the next trait, so we have Restorative Illusions. Heal yourself and lose conditions when you use a Shatter skill. Very, very useful. Gives you a lot more sustain. I feel that this is even better considering how much they gutted Elusive Mind. So this gives you a source of condition cleanse without having to worry about running Elusive Mind. And we'll get to what I mean by you don't have to run Elusive Mind with this. Actually, let me turn the volume down on the effects in the background. It's getting kind of loud. Anyways, so final trait. Oh, there's also, yeah, like I said, clears conditions. Also gives you sizable heals whenever you shatter. The last one, I personally use Mental Defense. So you cast Lesser Phantasmal Defender on your attacker when you successfully block or evade an attack. And what Phantasmal Defender does is it summons an illusion that taunts your target and all nearby targets while blocking attacks. It explodes when it finishes blocking, dealing increased damage for each attack blocked. So while the cooldown used to be a lot smaller, it used to be I think 30 seconds, but since then they upped that. Even so, it's still useful. This can save you as well. So if you're being pressured pretty hard, you manage to dodge, defender comes out, it taunts, letting you getting away. You can also use this to burst. Now, when I say you can use this to burst, it has to be kind of reactive on your part, unless you can keep a mental clock in your head, be like, okay, the next time I dodge, the defender's gonna pop out. But you can use this to burst for when the target gets taunted, you can instantly turn around on them and start just wailing on them, right? And the taunt is also another cover condition that they can either cleanse or they have to use a stun break. So you can use this to bait out stun breaks especially. Excuse me, but you can also use it to bait out cleanses so that when you do manage to get your full burst of somebody, they can't just cleanse it and negate it. And trust me, there's plenty of cleanse running around, especially in this meta right now. And finally, we have Mirage, of course, because that's what we're playing. So for the first trait, self-deception, you're using a deception skill, will create a clone if you have any other clones active. Now, as you can see, we have 4 deception skills, right? So that means this skill is going to be proccing a lot. And even though you don't have Deceptive Evasion, you'll be pumping out a lot of clones with this skill alone. So of course that means more shatter damage, but even past that, this also helps with your sustain through restorative illusions. Since you'll be shattering more clones, that means you'll be healed more. So you won't have any clone production problems at all. Now, if you want more sustain, you can use Renewing Oasis instead, which is you gain regeneration when you gain Mirage Cloak. The duration of incoming damaging conditions is reduced while you are regenerating. So if you're going against a condition heavy team, you can run this instead. If you simply want more sustain, you can use this. I feel if you're running Sage Amulet, this probably would be more effective. I have been running this for the most part, but I've also been running Self-Deception lately, and the amount of clones that you can pump out is pretty insane, and it helps with your general burst. It also helps with getting the most out of your restorative illusions. So you can use either or if you want. I'd stay away from Brittle Sand. I just feel that it's not really effective enough to warrant taking it. But that's just my personal opinion. And then for your next trait, we have Mirrored Axes. Reduce recharge of axe skills. Axe skills generate an additional Phantom Axe. You really need this in order to get as much pressure out of your axe as possible, and just to make your cooldowns as low as Axon possible. So you could, I guess you could run Desert Distortion because it synergizes with Self-Deception if you want that extra sustain provided by the mirrors, but I think you'll be taking too much of a hit on your condition damage, so that's why this skill I think is the best choice out of these three for this build specifically. And then finally we have Doom Cloak. Use Sand Shards when you gain Mirage Cloak. Conditions apply to bleeding foes have increased duration. Now this is going to be the bread and butter of your skills. Well, not your skills, of your burst. What I mean by that is that it turns your dodge into an AoE bleed. Now the AoE isn't that big, but since you're going to be in melee anyways, it doesn't really matter. So if you look, every time you dodge, you inflict 3 bleeding to everybody around you. So the point is you want to dodge as much as possible when you're close to somebody, so that you can stack up on the bleeds as much as possible. Also, this makes it to where all your other conditions last longer. So the goal here is to basically keep bleeding as much as possible on your opponent. And that 3 bleeding might not look much, but even 3 bleeding alone, it lasts for a long time. Lasts for a pretty good amount of time. And you can easily whittle people down just with your bleeding alone. You can also make them have to back off of you, because if they notice that so I'll set up a scenario. So let's say someone is pressuring you hard and they're chasing you and you're dodging while you're getting away from them, right? If they keep following you too much, they're going to stack up a lot of bleeds on themselves. And if they don't have any cleanse to deal with it, they're going to have to back off, right? But I want to say that's the main reason why you would use this. The main reason is simply because it helps with your condition burst by a considerable amount. And I'll hope to demonstrate that in a little bit after we go over the utilities. So let's go over here. Alright, so for utilities, so for your heal, False Oasis, create a Mirage Mirror at your current location and heal over time. When the Mirage expires, it spawns a Mirage Mirror. So if you're not familiar with Mirage, basically what Mirage Mirrors do, they're these little pink diamonds, well not little, but they're pink diamonds that come either out of your heal or they can come out of utility skills, but we're not using any utility skills to that spawn Mirage mirrors, or they come out of your clones if you're using Desert Distortion, but we're not. So in this instance, it'll only come out of your heal. So whenever you use your heal, so I'll use it, it'll spawn a Mirage mirror. So whenever you touch that, you'll dodge. So if I touch it right now, it allows me to use Mirage Cloak. Now, I was trying to time it to where as soon as I touched the mirror, the sand shards would have inflicted bleeding, but it wasn't close enough. So ideally you want to try to, well, let me say it this way. If you're in a fight and you need to pop your heal, if it's not putting you in direct danger, as in you won't get downed, you want to try to place this to where whenever you touch it, the Doom Cloak will inflict bleeding on whoever's around you. So that's how you can use this offensively as well. But if you can't do that, that's fine. You can also use this as a means of kiting away, especially if you're on sword pistol. So if you need to get away but you have no dodges left, use your heal, touch the mirror, and then ambush away. When I say ambush away, I mean, you know, once you get Mirage Cloak, your sword one skill changes into Mirage Thrust. You can simply use that to get away from people. Alright, next we have Illusionary Ambush. You and all your illusions shadow step to a random point around your target and gain Mirage Cloak. Illusions' actions are interrupted when they change focus to the targeted foe. Now, this is a very interesting skill, and there's a lot of different ways for you to use it. So the first thing that happens is that you shadow step to a random point around your target. You and all your illusions do. So you can use this to pour it on people from out of LOS, or if you need to chase people down, you can use this to pour it on them as well. You do not need LOS to use this. So you can, well, the best way to use it, simply use it behind walls, behind cover, just so that people don't expect you to be right on their face. Second thing that happens is that you have Mirage Cloak, so you're dodging, for one, and two, that allows you to use your ambush as well, whatever ambush that you have. So I'm sure you already see the offensive ways of using this, but this also is very strong defensively because of one thing: it breaks targeting. So if you're being pressured particularly hard, so I know this is probably isn't the best example to use, but we'll just assume that this golem here is another player and they're pressuring us pretty hard and we need to get away. So what you can do is use Illusionary Ambush to break target, but as soon as you use this, de-target whoever is focusing you, and then if you're on sword, spin in the opposite direction and ambush away. So we'll use it, so let's say they're chasing us like this, right? So we can Illusionary Ambush, ambush away. And what will usually happen, since this happens extremely quickly and it breaks target, they're gonna think that you stealthed. So you'll see people cleaving over here, swinging and all that nonsense while you're long gone over here. So this is also a very powerful kiting tool. I also consider this the build pseudo stun break, as in while it doesn't exactly break stun, you can use it when you're stunned, and it can end up saving you because it breaks target and it gives you Mirage Cloak, which means you're dodging as well. So yeah, so that's illusionary ambush. You can use this to also burst people pretty heavily, especially if you have a lot of clones up. If you have a lot of sword clones up, you can stack up a lot of confusion stacks with the interrupts. If you have a lot of axe clones up, you can get a considerable burst on people with the torment. So plenty of options for you to use this, or say ways for you to use this. All right. So now we have Mirage Advance. So you Shadow Step and unleash an attack that blinds your target and nearby foes. You may activate this skill to return to your original position. So this is almost like Shadow Step, like the Thief Shadow Step. Well, yeah, Shadow Step, except for Mesmers. So the first bit, you Shadow Step and unleash an attack that blinds your target and nearby foes, right? Since you are running Ineptitude, this will also inflict confusion when you use it. So I'll go ahead and use it now. I'll wait till this golem gets a little bit further away. So you port. All right. So this white circle here is going to show me where I port back to. And as soon as you use this skill turns into Mirage Retreat. And what Mirage Retreat does is that you Shadow Step back to the location you originally teleported from. You make a clone at your previous position, and it breaks targeting. Now, another thing to notice is that while Mirage Advance has a range of 900 units, Mirage Retreat has a range of 1200 units. So what this means is that even if you're out of range of your original port position, if you use Mirage Retreat, you will port back as far as you can possibly go to your original position. So I'll try to give an example on that. So we'll use Mirage Advance. We'll ambush away. See, it's all the way back there. But if I use Mirage Retreat, it simply just takes me back as far as it possibly can. Now, this skill has an enormous amount of counting potential, and you have a lot of potential playing serious mind games on people, especially since it detargets when you port back. So one way I like to use it is, of course, using it out of LOS and just giving you a safe position to port back from, because once again, you don't need LOS to use this, as with Illusionary Ambush. So you can go to a point, especially like a midpoint, use this out of LOS, contribute to the fight. If you're getting pressured hard, or let's say you get CC'd and you get the hell out of there, you can simply use Mirage Retreat and it'll port you back to your original position and break target as well. Oh, you can use this when you're stunned. Not the advanced part, but the retreat part. You can use that when you're stunned. So again, it'll give off the illusion that you either stealthed or you simply ported somewhere else, which you did, but they don't know where you ported to since it detargets. I really like to use this if I'm running away from targets. So you can use this when you're in melee, it doesn't matter. In fact, you can still make it extremely effective using in melee. So they're using these golems now. So we'll just use this one here. So let's say I'm getting pressured hard and I need to, get the hell out. So what you can do, Mirage Advance. So that's where my port back location is, right? They're chasing me, I port back. So when you want to juke people with this, you have to sell it. What I mean is that you have to bait them enough to chase you so that you can go back to your original spot. And once again, don't be surprised if you fool people with this, because it happens very quickly, and again, it breaks target. So you can get people to, and it's even better if you make people have to burn a port or a mobility skill to catch you when you're running away, so that when you port back to your original location, they don't have anything else to chase you with and you're good. So again, this skill has many uses. It takes practice to get used to. It is an awkward skill to use at first because it's not something that, especially if you play Mesmer, you're not used to using a skill like this. It's not something that's usually in the Mesmer's toolkit. But I will say, once you get comfortable with this skill, it's extremely effective. So, and that's why I have this and this on my bar. These two skills alone offer you a lot of sustain and it helps you keep you alive. And of course Portal, because you know Mesmer. I mean, if you're not running Portal, what are you doing? Well, you could be running that Power Mantra builds where you don't have Portal, but in any other instance, you pretty much need to have Portal on your bar. It gives you a lot of mobility, can save your life, all that good stuff. And then finally, your elite jaunt. Shadow step to a target location, confuse nearby foes. So you can use jaunt for of course mobility purposes. You can also use it to get some extra damage on a target. It's especially effective if you combine this with like Axe 3 on your shatters. So you Axe 3, you shatter, and then you jaunt on top of the target to stack even more confusion. So you can also simply use this with your other axe skills or even your sword skills. Anything to get that extra condition damage on your target. Oh, also this cleanses conditions, which is, of course, you can always use more cleanse, but since we're running inspiration, we don't necessarily need this as badly for the cleanse, but it's still nice to have if you do need it. Alright, so there's a lot more to go over with the builds, but I feel that, you know, making an extremely long video is counterproductive, so I feel that it's best if we just simply go to your damage rotation. So your damage rotation, oh, that reminds me, the Doom Cloak. So whenever you do your damage rotation, whenever you dodge, you want to be on top of your target as possible, especially if you're trying to get some damage on them, because you want that Doom Cloak procs. You want those Doom Cloak procs. So I'll kind of demonstrate how a potential opener could be. So you do your duelist, get your... Alright, so that was some pretty nasty damage, right? That was pretty nasty. So even though you don't have illusions, which is mostly considered to be necessary if you want to run Condition Mesmer, we were still able to pump out some pretty good damage without it, right? Especially with those bleed stacks. I think it was like 22 stacks of bleed, so it's pretty ridiculous. So I'll show you how an opener could look using one of the deception skills. So you stealth, Mirage Advance, use your dodge, port on top, magic bullet, whatever. You port back too if you want to be extra fancy. So point here, a lot of damage to be done in this build. Particularly your biggest damaging skills are going to be your duelist, your Axe 3, and your Axe 2. Axe 3 is the Axis of Symmetry, Axe 2, Lingering Thoughts. You know, these two skills, of course, a lot of potential damage to be done. I will say, if you have 3 clones available, especially if you're on your axe, try to get illusionary ambush in, so that you and all your clones will do the axe ambush, because which can stack a lot of nasty torment, or whoever you're with, whoever you're fighting, I should say. And yeah, just don't be afraid to be reactive in your gameplay. Of course, I'm doing this on golems, so you won't be able to do the exact same thing on a player with 100% efficiency, but you can Condi burst the hell out of people, and you will make a lot of people mad. And that's what Mesmers do. We make people mad. So I think that's a good enough place to stop for now. I will be doing additional videos using this build, especially when the season starts, where I hopefully commentate matches. I kind of describe what I'm doing, what I would do correctly, what I do incorrectly, and what we can all learn from that. Perhaps I might do matchup videos to where it's like how to fight Hollow Smith, how to fight Soul Beast using this build and such. If that'll be particularly useful, I'll do them. If not, then I guess I'll simply settle with just doing the typical match analysis. But I hope that this video was helpful, and if you do try the build out, please let me know. I would love to get people's feedback on this. But from my personal experience, this has been a very effective and fun build to use. I have managed to break into top 10 with this build. While I did not finish there, I usually finish like top 25 or top 50. Just that alone lets you know that this can work in higher tier ranked matches. I have not taken this into a tournament since I don't do tournaments, but I might be tempted to do that soon as well, so that I can get potential feedback on how this does in a tournament setting. But other than that, I hope you enjoyed the video, and hopefully you'll come by and see any other videos I got. Other than that, thanks for watching the video, and I'll catch y'all next time.